Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Sootopolis City League. This is week 6, and we are now presenting you the last game. We had like series Spike Murph, and then series 13, then Spike Murph, and finally we're ending off with series 13, and this will be a banger because Gahaku and Chris have been playing series 13 for all their games in this league so far. My name is Evan. It's my first time kind of casting for a while, right? Like in this league. And I'm joined by my very, very good friend and my partner in crime from VGC Pace, Poker. And he's casting for the first time, so let's go easy and we're gonna try and keep it chill and like bring you guys this Series 13 match. How is it going, Poker?
Good, good. I'm excited to cast for the first time, and thank you for having me on.
Yep, so let's go through this matchup of the Tokyo Thunders and the Copers, the last two teams that we're going to feature today. What do you see here? Like, we're going to feature Chris versus Gahaku, but are there any teams that are interesting that stood out? And how does the matchup look to you?
I think over here on the Copers end, that Gyarados, I've seen it a couple times on ladder recently in the Spike Myth format. Uh, you can use like just Intimidate support with Thunder Wave. I've seen Dragon Dance as well. Yeah, it seems like the team likes Gyarados a lot actually, so that's pretty interesting.
It seems like a
And
team that they have been building together, but unfortunately isn't able to take that win. Right, all three of the same like archetype lost
right,
to the Tokyo Thunders, and Tokyo Thunders seem to be really prepared somehow against like these archetypes, or just maybe the matchup like happens to be in favor of them, and with that they are taking the lead very strong with 4-2. Kind of a no surprise to us 6 weeks into this league, because Tokyo Thunder is currently at 3 wins and 2 losses, are just a very strong contender, to make it to playoffs or even to the first two spots that help them get a bye in playoffs. So the Copers really need to win these next two matches to even have a chance and have at least a win on the board to continue their hopes to be in this tournament.
right. Unfortunately, the Copers are out of contention for a win here, but if they manage to win these two matches, starting with Chris versus Gahaku here, then they can get another tie and be at 3 ties and 3 losses. So yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully they'll get this win here for their sake.
So let's take a look at the matchup over here, where we are featuring Gahaku versus Chris, and like Gahaku is one of the best players in Series 13 for our league right now with a record of 4-1. It's very funny that I want to mention this on stream because like when he did his player sign-ups, the Gahaku is from Japan, by the way. He said,
Mhm.
I am eager to play Series 13, and then look where he is right now. Like that one loss, I think Izzy mentioned last week, it was just unfortunate. Like he could easily be 5-0 right now, and he's been using like various teams. And let me like talk about his achievements real quick. Mostly on the online scene, just being a household name in like the Asian scene, and also online player leagues like ours. So APAC League top 4 with the Leverage Boosters, and then PGL runners up with the Kittens, and a 3-time Japan Nets competitor. And getting into Japan Nets is always tough, like we always say, having to do well in a best of one online tour.
Right. And we see over here for Gahaku's team, he's got the Gastrodon, Landorus, Incin, Yveltal, Eternatus, and Zamazenta. So a very interesting team, especially for Series 13, where you usually tend to see like 4 or 5 restricteds, maybe one mythical. On the other side, Chris has got a Zacian, Calyrex Ice, Groudon, Incin, Charizard, and the Grimmsnarl. So uh, pretty familiar like Sun team type of thing. You just get the chip with Charizard and then clean up with either Zacian or Calyrex, hopefully.
Yep. So Gahaku's team, right? Like, he has achieved, I think, top 7 on the previous month's ladder, and he's the only, like, the first player without Zacian. So you also see right here, without Zacian, he was, yeah, like the only Zamazenta that stood out when I did the top 30 teams in the September ladder. So it's really cool to see, and interesting to see like the Gastrodon and Landorus help out with the team there, with multiple like Dynamax targets, except for the obvious Eternatus and Zamazenta. So talking about Chris real quick, his current record is actually 2-2. Both players have been grinding Series 13 a lot, so this should be a pretty good matchup. Then he mostly plays on the online scene because he comes from Mexico. So really a lot of good performances in the Desafio Latam circuit, the Rose Tower, and also the Victory Road circuits online. A very strong player. You always see his name around with the Twitter tag VGC Chris. So his team here looks like Rinya-san, but the Gastrodon is replaced by Calyrex Ice. So I'm curious to see how this matchup will go with this Zacian versus the Zamazenta.
Yeah, definitely. He's also using the same team that he used in week 1. We have in our notes here. And he played against Klefki 22, actually lost with a score of 1-2. But he's playing the same type of mons again, Zacian, Yveltal, and Landorus Therian. So hopefully he's worked on the matchup a little bit, and then maybe he can swing the result in his favor this time.
True, yeah. So Chris is definitely the underdog here, and then Gahaku is like the stronger one. So yeah, let's see how these players fare. It's so cool to see like not so many restricted mons, being brought, and it looks more like a Series 12 match, which personally I'm a bit more comfortable with.
Yeah, same. All right, so we see the Charizard and the Grimmsnarl as the lead for Chris, and then an Eternatus and Yveltal for Gahaku here. So, one thing to watch out for from the Grimmsnarl's end is some type of speed control, like Scary Face for the Eternatus. Dynamax Cannon would do a lot of damage to Charizard if he lets it get off here. So, I could see a light screen, or some type of speed control coming in here.
Overall, it feels like a very strong lead from Gahaku. I think just catching this very common Grimmsnarl and Charizard lead, right? Because Charizard won't possibly do that much damage into Eternatus. It's naturally very bulky, so even if Grimmsnarl were to go for speed control, both Yveltal and Eternatus should comfortably sit on the field and chip down Charizard. And if Charizard were to go for a Dynamax, it might fall prey to like a Snarl from the from the Yveltal, or a very powerful move from Eternatus, and it might waste its Dynamax. So Chris does well in saving this Charizard for later and actually brings the Groudon in that possibly can threaten this Eternatus. But Gahaku is really in that position to just dish out damage, and it might be a little bit too passive for Chris. I think the screens really need to come in handy from the Grimmsnarl, as Gahaku actually opts to Dynamax, so a very explosive turn 1. I'm curious to see what this Yveltal wants to do.
Right. We did also see from the team preview screen that he showed just now, Grimmsnarl goes for light screen here. Eternatus is actually kind of more of a supportive set with a black sludge, and he's going for Cosmic Power right here.
Oh.
So setting up for kind of a unkillable Eternatus type of game.
Yeah, so Yveltal naturally should go for Airstream here. Actually targets into the Grimmsnarl. Both Eternatus and the Yveltal not respecting the potential, Charizard max. Like the Grimmsnarl could have sought into Groudon, then the Charizard could have gotten a very powerful Airstream as well. The Airstream might go before the Yveltal, so Gahaku making a super good read. Like Chris just kind of fell prey to it with so much pressure, like with that offense from these two restricted Pokemon. And now Gahaku is sitting quite comfortably with the +1 speed on the Yveltal.
Right. And we see a trick coming out from
Oh,
Grimmsnarl here, so let's see what item he receives.
I didn't catch that too.
Yeah, he's too fast.
Yeah, it might be lagging tail, it might be like the incense, right? But I think the lagging
Yeah.
tail makes more sense, and we might be able to see it happen with the priority in the future turns. And the Yveltal has that speed boost already, so in this turn opts to go for the max darkness to try and make full use of all three Dynamax turns. Groudon probably goes for this like Stone Age here, right? And does significant damage into the Yveltal. Is pretty useful. As Grimmsnarl actually gets hurt by the Black Sludge. It's kind of funny to see.
Yeah, definitely kind of not sure if it'll pay off for him because the Eternatus is just assuming it's going to be really bulky, and then he gets a lot of Black Sludge chip onto Grimstone potentially here. So, having set up two Cosmic Powers already, it's going to be a little tough for Chris to break through, but he does have the Groudon on the field right now, so does pose a lot of offensive pressure here.
That's true. I think the Groudon really needs to find the correct opportunity to go for Max Quake. And having two defense boosts from the Cosmic Power onto the Eternatus is just very comfortable for Gahaku. So I'm trying to think of a way, right, for Chris to kind of come back at this very difficult position. But wow, the Eternatus actually switches out. That's a very strange thing to do. Like it was boosted and so comfortable with three like three at defense, special defense, and speed boost. So switching out into the landers, putting down the intimidate, and possibly predicting something like a max quick. But Chris doesn't fall for it and doesn't Dynamax. So the Grims now goes for yet another screen. With that -1 special defense, this max airstream is more than enough to take Grims now down. But more importantly, give this airstream boost to the Landorus, and that might pose a threat onto a potential Zacian from the opposing side, as the Groudon keeps going for that Stone Age, right, into the Yveltal, and I think manages to chip it down enough. And now I think Chris is quite commanding with the option of Dynamax. So let's see how the rest of the turns play out, right? Because Gaku has expanded his Dynamax and even switched out the Eternatus. So let's see how both players adapt here.
Yeah, that Landorus switch, understandable because if Groudon just went for the max, trying to get rid of that Eternatus with the two Cosmic Power boosts, but it doesn't quite go off for him. He does get the Intimidate on the Groudon at least, but now he's in a bit of an awkward situation. No max anymore, and doesn't threaten a KO onto the Calyrex right away.
True, and the Calyrex actually is the switch in, like instead of a Zacian, right, from Chris's side, which makes complete sense. The Calyrex like might want to go for Trick Room and try to be as bulky as possible. I think the Yveltal is still posing a very strong threat with Dark type attacks, like super strong. Um, and the like Groudon could still be in a good position even though it's at -1. But yeah, the Landorus understands that it is weak to ice here and switches out into Incineroar. Is really helpful to bring both physical attackers down to -1. Yeah, Chris is like always having to be at the back foot, which is really tough.
Right. That's kind of the nature of having the lead go in your favor in Series
Mm-hmm.
13, maybe like hyper offense. Uh, Gahaku managed to get quite a lot of offensive pressure with the first turns, but now that his max is over, if Chris manages to get himself into a good spot here, maybe uh, start sweeping with the Calyrex, he can definitely turn this game around. Considering the Eternatus has already been tricked to Lagging Tail, and
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the team is quite weak to Calyrex in general. So
Yeah, but the Chris didn't take that opportunity. This is just so tough because at the previous turn, Calyrex could have gone for Trick Room, but Calyrex went
right.
for Protect. Groudon went for the Stone Age into the Yveltal that protected, and Incineroar comes in for free here and threatens even the Flare Blitz in Sun towards the Calyrex, or even the Fake Out towards the Groudon. And Groudon is already at -2 attack, so Gahaku is in such control, and Chris just is playing so defensively, possibly because there's just so much offensive pressure coming out from Gahaku's side. Finally has to switch the Charizard back in and possibly take some damage. But the Yveltal just goes for, I believe that's the Dark Pulse, and this Flare Blitz double up. Calyrex protected Nick last turn, so easily goes down this turn. Very unfortunate turn of events for Chris here. I think the Sun turns are even running low, so Charizard, yeah, look, the sun went down, so Charizard came in at a very strange time, but actually the Groudon's in the back, right, like, so yeah, maybe a Dynamax Charizard could try to clean up the game, but this seems um a bit of an uphill battle for Chris with this 2v4 situation.
Definitely. But if there is any mon that can swing it back, it'd probably be the Charizard here.
Hmm.
So if he manages to take the correct KOs here, get Airstream Boost on the Groudon, could be possible. But he does still have that Landorus there in the back to intimidate the Groudon, so might be able to have enough to mitigate all the damage here.
Yeah, let's see. Gahaku's taking a little bit of time to reconsider the board state here. Yeah, but it does make sense, like what you said. The Charizard has that potential to kind of pull off that reverse sweep. We're looking at this Incineroar with such full health. Let's like see how things are gonna go. And this Yveltal set, like it might not uh wait, Yveltal is I think possibly Assault Vest, right? From what we see in the behind the scenes here. So if it carries Snarl, then this Charizard might be in trouble. So naturally, Chris Dynamaxes here. This is a Beast Ball. It's a very interesting item. Very interesting Pokeball for Charizard. And yeah, it's now time to go for those Airstreams and to help Groudon boost and hopefully do as much damage as possible. But this Landorus switching just with this double Intimidate keeps neutering this Groudon down. So very tough for the Groudon to do anything here.
Yeah, definitely. I believe the Yveltal does have a life orb here, or not an assault vest because I did go for protect earlier.
Okay.
Landorus gets taken out by the airstream here, unfortunately, but feels like on Gahaku's end, he has a couple speed boosts on the Yveltal, and then as long as he can take out the Groudon here, it feels like for Chris it's going to be an uphill battle to take out the Eternatus, even with the lagging tail, especially with the full health instant in the back as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Groudon here doesn't want to miss, so goes for that Heat Crash into the Yveltal. Yveltal is getting really low, but with the Oblivion Wing into the Groudon in the previous turn, it just did enough damage. And yeah, what you say is true. Getting rid of the Groudon should be the way to go. Then you force that like maybe 1v1 of an Eternatus versus the Charizard on the opposing end. And Charizard has Life Orb. It keeps chipping itself down to solar power. So with a very bulky Eternatus versus Charizard endgame, I think Eternatus should have that bulk to try and stall out this game. Gahaku's taking a little bit of time here, but it does make sense. Charizard going ham with all these airstreams will really pose a problem. And with this one airstream, I'm not sure if it can even outspeed this +2 speed Yveltal, right?
Yeah, unless the Yveltal is like very, very bulky, I think the Yveltal should be able to outspeed here, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Uh, for Gahaku's end here, he can fake out the Groudon, try to get the KO on that. It might be a little bit iffy, but if he does manage to do that, feels like he can stall out one more turn of Dynamax, hopefully, and then just try to beat the Charizard 1v1 with the Eternatus.
True. Yeah, let's see what the how impactful this Charizard can be. I've seen like Incineroar survive some like even airstream from a Charizard in Sun, right? So
Right.
if the Charizard takes down the Incineroar, I think it might swing it back for Chris with the Eternatus having the lagging tail, and then the Charizard can keep dishing out damage, but the Yveltal cannot take out the Groudon, and what we say happened. Oh, that was a crit.
You get a crit.
So Incineroar goes down. Groudon is actually still alive. The Eternatus is gonna switch in with that lagging tail. Wow, I think this might turn things around for Chris with that powerful Charizard, right? He managed to stall Dynamax out and use Dynamax really well in these last 2 turns, taking 2 straight KOs to make some form of a reverse sweep here.
Yeah, missing out the KO on that Groudon there was definitely a really big deal now. Charizard and Groudon both on 2 Airstream boosts, and one more turn of Max. Feels like he can take out the Yveltal. Yveltal doesn't have Sucker Punch here, so can't finish off the Groudon. Maybe Chris will still respect the option, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, so Eternatus comes in here. I think this is like Yveltal moveset. I couldn't like, I can read a little bit of Japanese but not this fast, but I think it's like Oblivion Wing, Dark Pulse, and possibly Heat Wave, right? If it has
It has Taunt and Protect.
Oh yes, Taunt. So yeah.
Yes.
So you're right, like it doesn't have Sucker Punch to take advantage of that priority, and naturally the Charizard moves first before the Yveltal here with 2 Airstream boosts. Goes for yet another one. Now Charizard now the Groudon will get to move I think before the Yveltal. No, the Yveltal actually outspeeds the Groudon here and takes that KO onto the Groudon. The Eternatus. Wait a sec. Charizard did not go for Wildfire.
Yeah, true. It feels like a interesting target there. Maybe he was respecting the Sucker Punch, but Dynamax Cannon just takes out the Charizard, and Gahaku actually manages to take game one here.
Yeah. Like that's so strange. Like but I guess Groudon was not trained to be so fast, so the Groudon could not move before the Yveltal. Because if the Yveltal were to be able to uh take out the no the ground yeah if the Groudon will take out the Yveltal, then it'll be much more comfortable for Chris's end. So I think that's such an unfortunate way to go out there. I think with that speed tiers, the Yveltal with +2 speed, the the speed boost that he got from that airstream so many turns ago actually turned out to be in Gahaku's favor and helped him win that game.
Right. I think maybe on Chris's end, he was hoping that even if the Groudon gets taken out by, say, a Sucker Punch, or for
Oh.
whatever reason, the Yveltal just like outspeeds like we saw there, then Charizard maybe takes out Eternatus there, but it wasn't quite enough, and now Charizard goes down to the Dynamax Cannon. So unfortunately loses that game here, but I think he got a lot of important information for the next game coming up.
Yeah, that's true. Having to know that the Grimmsnarl is not a light clay set, right, and has that
Mhm.
trick lagging tail. At the same time, I think Chris also got some good information on Gahaku's team, right? Got to know a lot of the moves coming out from these mons. Got to know like especially like how this Eternatus is being played, and especially how um, the Yveltal is also being played, possibly a good Dynamax candidate, and Incineroar and Landorus always cycling those intimidates.
Right. Yeah, I think maybe in the next game he'll try to preserve the Calyrex a little more, use that to sweep instead
Hmm.
of having to rely completely on the Charizard, basically, like he did in that last game. But Calyrex, if he brings the same stuff, Landorus, Yveltal, both take a lot of damage from Glacial Lance if not just get KO'd.
Hmm.
Even Incin, we've seen the Focus Sash, actually, so probably not on the bulkier end, but Chris doesn't have that information quite yet.
True, and I think Chris can also play a little bit more like bold, right? Because in the previous turn, he like Gahaku just kept making really good reads here. But this is not what we see here because Chris actually leads the classic Insane Grimmsnarl from Arena Sun team, and Gahaku continues to lead with that Yveltal. I think really wants to put in that pressure. He seems to be calling the Calyrex Ice lead with this Yveltal and Incineroar lead, right? But does not catch that. Ah, shucks, I didn't see the Intimidate interactions coming out from Incineroar, so we'll see how these players, form their decisions with that information on speed tiers and who, believes that Incineroar is faster here. But I think on Chris's end, this lead just helps to, stall things out, like mitigate all these damage output from the powerful mons on Gahaku's end, and use a little bit of time to formulate a good game plan going forward. I'm quite curious to know what the two Pokemon are in the back from Chris's side.
Yeah, definitely considering the lead is a little bit passive on Chris's end, I would expect something like maybe Zacian Calyrex or Zacian Groudon. Probably not seeing the Charizard this time, just want to max something like Calyrex or Groudon.
Yeah, so Gahaku's Incineroar, possibly the faster one. We went for the fake out onto Chris's Incineroar. Grimmsnarl just went for Light Screen to possibly take damage from that Yveltal as the Incineroar flinched. So I think it might have wanted to go for parting shot there. And the Eternatus actually comes in for free from Gahaku's end. Now on this turn gets to set up the Cosmic Power. So yeah, Gahaku does have this game plan of using the Eternatus to stall games out. And I think Chris really needs to bring in that Calyrex Ice now to change things around, set up Trick Room, and try and sweep from there.
Yeah, definitely. Feels like it's going to be a much slower game this time around. Turn is just going for Cosmic Power. Chris is just trying to mitigate the damage that was coming out from the first turn in the last game where Yveltal just maxed turn 1, but this time Gahaku understands he doesn't have to max right away due to these two passive mons on the field. We do see the Groudon switch in here for Chris's end.
Yeah, interesting. And Chris like wants to put on pressure now, right, with that Groudon threatening damage. But Gahaku, yeah, prepares for this really well. I think Chris was spending a lot of time thinking of what to switch in because he knows that that parting shot should come in on that slot. But the based on the speed interactions, Chris's Incineroar actually moved first, so I'm not sure. This might be a speed tie. I think we'll figure out as the games go along. But having to, have the later parting shot was so useful for Gaku because Incineroar lowered the attack from Groudon. Then Landorus comes in again to lower yet another attack drop onto Groudon's side, and at the same time on Grimmsnarl, and Grimmsnarl's Spirit Break did nothing into that Landorus.
Right. Even though the Eternatus is at -1 special attack here due to that parting shot, he did get the Cosmic Power off, and that Groudon is at -2 stages of attack here, so it's definitely going to be very reduced in his damage output here and might want to consider switching out to, say, an Incin.
Yeah, like unfortunate that the Groudon can't make any impact, and Eternatus can still sit comfortably even though Groudon has the obvious type advantage against this poison type Eternatus. I'm also curious to
Right.
see like that Grimmsnarl not go for that trick here, and finally that trick is coming into the Eternatus to always make sure it moves last. I think it's a really good move and a good tech. So even if Eternatus were to keep setting up, like it will always move last and you can put in damage to it. Eternatus will now take this opportunity to go for Toxic here. That's a very valuable move into Groudon since Groudon is naturally very bulky, but the Toxic now puts it on a timer. While that Precipice Blades did nothing into the Eternatus, and it's just gonna. Oh no, it won't heal back with Black Sludge now, but yeah, it's still really bulky and commanding on the field, and it can still keep spreading Toxics all over the place.
Yeah, in this position, Eternatus is not in a great deal of threat here. Can just keep going for Cosmic Power. And then Groudon probably going to want to switch out sometime soon and then try to finish off the Eternatus later. Hopefully not let it get out of control first. Maybe try to kill it with a Max Quake. But at this point, with -2 stages of attack, probably not maxing anytime soon.
True, I think both players still need to grapple for positioning here. So Gahaku makes the first play and switches out into Yveltal. Yeah, and Chris probably makes a double switch here. So the Grimmsnarl is switching into Charizard. And let's see what this Groudon does. Groudon actually goes for Precipice Blades again. So yeah, wants to keep this Eternatus honest, right, and keep like and try to put damage onto it. But man, if this Eternatus has recovered, then everything will kind of be wasted. And Gahaku takes the opportunity to go for yet another cosmic power. So this Eternatus, even though it has the lagging tail, it's still sitting quite comfortable and can keep spreading toxics around. And like that, every Pokemon on Chris's side is a juicy target because you have Charizard on the field here, and you have Incineroar and Grimmsnarl in the back.
Right. Though that Charizard, we did see the damage from the Max Airstream and Sun last game, so that might just do enough to put it in position where that Eternatus can just be KO'd by something in the back later or by the Groudon.
Yeah, that's true. So let's see if Chris takes advantage of this now. Knowing the Yveltal set, knowing the Eternatus set, like this Yveltal probably does not have Snarl, so now should be a good time to max this Charizard to really take full advantage of Dynamax, and I think hopefully put down that Gmax Wildfire because it will now put Eternatus on a timer. Eternatus cannot Dynamax, it's gonna stay in this health, forever. But let's see if Chris goes for speed control or goes for that damage over time here.
Right. And that switching to Charizard last turn really paid off for him. Now he gets a lot of offensive pressure on the board. When with Groudon and Grimmsnarl didn't have much of that going on. Slightly risky in front of Landorus, but pretty unlikely he was going to go into a rock move into Grimmsnarl there.
Yeah, and Gahaku actually responds by Dynamaxing the Yveltal. So let's see. Yeah, I think it's a pretty smart play, right? Knowing that like a very powerful move is gonna come out from that Charizard. So matching Dynamax with Dynamax, and it pays off surviving that G-Max Wildfire. Going for the Airstream boost will now put the Yveltal faster than the Charizard. So uh, yeah, let's see if it pays off for Chris, going for Wildfire instead of Airstream here. While Groudon continues to click Precipice Blades, even at -2, still does significant damage, but the Eternatus goes for recover here and goes almost back to full health.
Yeah, Eternatus is definitely going to be a pain for Chris to deal with here, but he did get that Wildfire chip going, so he could potentially max guard the Charizard next turn. Doesn't even look like it's going to be able to be KO'd by the Yveltal, so maybe just goes on the offensive as well.
That's true. Like Charizard's kind of low though. Like it got chipped by Life Orb and Solar
Right.
Power, and I think Groudon like maybe could have went for another move. Like if it had Rock Slide or some other move to chip Yveltal even further. Maybe Chris didn't expect Gahaku to just Dynamax the Yveltal like that. Cause based on the math I saw, I believe Yveltal will not go down to another turn of Wildfire. So Yveltal might, put on more pressure for yet 2 more turns of its Dynamax. Groudon is actually gonna switch out um, into Grimmsnarl, and yeah, I think the Yveltal is gonna like move next and put on pressure, right? But Yveltal actually opts to Max Guard, which is kind of cool because it calls Charizard's Max Guard. Both Dynamaxes actually waste a turn, but yeah, this Eternatus still gets to sit here for free. Yveltal is essentially kind of doing like follow me or just taking attention away, and Eternatus is now sitting at +4 on both defenses, so really looking very healthy here. As yeah, like I said, Yveltal actually still lives to see another day. Gahaku knows his math.
Yeah, turn went quite well for Gahaku there. If he managed to take a lot of damage and went for Cosmic Power at the end of the turn, it might have been a little bit of a tricky situation for him, but obviously knowing that Chris is probably going to respect the Yveltal going first, so goes for the passive play with the Max Guard and the switch.
Yeah, so Gahaku yet again, making really good reads. Like always taking advantage of his position against Chris here. And yeah, let's see if this final turn of Yveltal's Dynamax, puts in good impact. Maybe going for something like a Max Darkness would make sense, because then even though Eternatus is at -1 special attack, then Eternatus can still do like significant damage. So yeah, Grimmsnarl last ditch effort doing light screen here. Let's see if this Charizard actually survives, because Charizard can be naturally bulky, and it does. It survives in the red.
Yeah, Charizard's going to get another max move off here and then probably go down to Solar Power and Life Orb, so let's see who he decides to target here.
True, goes for
He goes for the
max.
Airstream into the Turnus. Does a pretty good amount of damage, but the Cosmic Power boost definitely paying off for Gahaku.
True, and yeah, it gives the +1 to the Grimmsnarl, but yeah, really not sure what the Grimmsnarl can do to that Eternatus. So I think it will make sense like for the Grimmsnarl to target whoever is beside the Yveltal, because Yveltal is going down this turn to the Wildfire chip. Then I think having that Groudon in the back to try its best to close out this end game against Eternatus, but it really seems like Gahaku's Eternatus game plan is just working really well here, and he seems to be in a very commanding position in this game too.
Right. Even though it looks like Eternatus doesn't have a move to touch Grimmsnarl besides Toxic, so probably go for a Toxic on the Grimmsnarl here, maybe fake out the Charizard. Toxic plus Black Sludge damage will add up pretty quickly though on the Grimmsnarl, so should be pretty good for Gahaku here, especially with all those Cosmic Power boosts from earlier.
Yeah, that's true. I'm really like struggling to find a way out for Chris, unless the Groudon comes back in and crits the Eternatus. I think that's the only way to go. Then you
Yeah.
try and find a way to deal with that Landorus, that the last Pokemon in the back here. So Incineroar here has like fake out pressure, definitely threatens the KO into the Charizard, right? And like puts down that Intimidate on the Grimmsnarl. So really wondering what like Chris can do to turn things around.
Yeah. Chris switches out the Grimmsnarl here and Incineroar, putting on some fake out pressure in the next turn. But Charizard is still under threat of fake out, so maybe goes for protect.
Yeah, that makes sense. And with the sun gone, Charizard won't chip itself down to that solar power. So yeah, sure enough, goes for that protect here. Incineroar doesn't go for fake out, actually goes for the parting shot into what was once the Grimmsnarl, possibly wanting to catch the Groudon on the switch in, but catches the Incineroar instead, and now Landorus is kind of forced to come in. Chris is playing really well to preserve the Groudon in the back. He still has all 4 Pokemon. This is really the nature of the Rinya Sun team. You know, Chris didn't even bring the Zacian and the Calyrex Ice like in a Series 13 match. So it's really
Yeah.
crazy to think of, as the Eternatus really doesn't want to take any more damage, so took the opportunity to go for recover. Like it might be wasted. I think like toxic into the Incineroar slot might just be quite devastating to Chris, but Gahaku didn't do that.
Right. And it feels like on Chris's end, you want to get a lot of chip onto the Landorus so you can finish it off with the Incin or the Groudon. Not like threatening an Oko onto it with those Mons, so as long as you can get some chip onto it, maybe you can finish it off later on. And then the Eternatus, if you can leave it on its own with 2 or 3 Mons, probably be able to finish that off as well.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, like you're saying, Chris has the strength in numbers here. So I think Charizard's only job here is to take out the Landorus slot, right? Like last
Yeah.
breath, because he has Life Orb. Hopefully goes for Blast Burn and potentially takes out the Charizard. Takes out the Landorus. But Chris opts not to do that and actually, wants to preserve the Charizard in a better position. Actually, yeah, it does make sense because he calls the protect on the Landorus here, so switches the Grimmsnarl in. Yeah, let's see if this Eternatus starts to spread toxics, and surely it does. Goes into the Incineroar slots and now puts it on a timer. The Incineroar, I didn't see what the Incineroar do.
It faked out the Landorus on the protect.
Uh,
Yeah. That is one of the benefits that Chris has having 4 Mons versus 3. He can switch around, not too much threat coming in on the Grimmsnarl, so just fake out the Landorus, and then Grimmsnarl comes in pretty safely. Can save the Charizard to get a bunch of damage off later.
That makes sense. I think what Chris has, right, is time. Because Toxic chips down rather slowly. It takes a lot of turns and it's not that reliable of a strategy. That's why we don't see it that often. So having the time to and the resources to keep switching in and out, and not, get that toxic action going, I think it just helps out. And yeah, I think Chris is playing really well to keep in the game, working really hard, for this, game 2 win, and always making sure to slowly but surely put in that damage onto the partner of Eternatus. So like if you keep, like if you attack Landorus or like get Incineroar out of the way, then you can force that like 4v1 or 3v1 against the Eternatus, like you said earlier. While this switch in into the Groudon is actually really timely because it switched in after the Incineroar came in, so it does not get that Intimidate drop, and finally can go for Precipice Blades now, right, into both slots over here.
Right, now the Groudon has quite a bit of offensive pressure. You can take out that Incin. The Landorus switch does look pretty likely here on Gahaku's end, but maybe you can get the necessary chip that you want on that for later as well.
Yeah, Grimmsnarl unfortunately, can't do damage here, so Chris really opting to just let it set up screens. Potentially you take damage from the Landorus, but all things considered, like the screens is not that helpful against Toxic, right? That just keeps wearing his team down. So yeah, I think this is now or never. Both sides have, expanded their Dynamax. Even the wildfire damage is gone. So Groudon, I think this is your turn to shine. You really need to do significant damage here. If you get that crit on the Eternatus, I think Yeah, that's exactly what you need to do.
Right. We do see the timer come up here, so there's gonna be 3 minutes left in this game. Maybe Chris just saving his
Oh,
mons, playing to that end game instead.
that's true. So Incineroar goes for the fake out here. Eternatus finally goes for damage because it has spread enough toxics all over the place. Goes for the um, Dynamics Cannon. Yeah, but Groudon actually took that super well. So um, gets to move again. Wait, what was that? I think Groudon missed the move.
Oh, Incin got flinched.
Ah, I see.
Or no.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Oh
he
yeah,
faked out.
Groudon got finished by the fake out. Yeah, because the fake out from Incineroar does make sense. Yeah, and instead of the Landorus switch in. So yeah, 2 minutes left. Uh, Man, Chris's game plan seems to be coming into fruition here because he does have the upper hand with more mons here, and switching out timely also helps to mitigate that toxic damage. So always making sure he has strength in numbers with this 4 versus 3. Incineroar actually goes for Flare Blitz, calling the Landorus switching, and wow, this actually with this critical hit, because yeah, without critical hit, Incineroar would never have taken it down, even though there's stun. But with this KO, yeah, it really puts Chris in a way more commanding position to win the game, and that is surely one way to win against toxic cosmic power stall Eternatus.
Yeah, definitely. Like you were saying earlier, this is probably the reason we don't see it so much on the actual card, just because of the time limit compared to Showdown. It's a little
Ah,
bit easier to run it on there. But for Chris here now, just one, maybe 2 turns left in the game. Even though the toxic damage is starting to add up, he does have the 4 mons, or 3 mons now versus 2.
mhm.
And just as long as you can get enough damage, then you'll be totally fine.
He switches the oh, like look at the time, like it's kind of wearing
Yeah,
down really quickly, because
kind of.
if you are able to, like, he really clicked the lander switch in really quickly. So if he switched in the Landorus early, then maybe that 45 seconds could have allowed Eternatus to go for yet another move. But I think it was Chris's end, where he was stalling the time, because he with that Groudon going down, it allows him to get a free switch. So he has 2 full 45-second times to run down, and I think he is very sure to take this win, to take the game to timer and win with 3 mons over 2 mons. So man, what's with today and all these stally games? We see yet another one, and in series 13 here, and but like very well played from Chris to not bring Incineroar, to not bring Zacian and Calyrex Ice, and still play a game of chess to win this game out. Really props to him for fighting so hard, working so hard to tie this up against Gahaku.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like on Chris's end, he led that little bit of a passive lead, but it felt like he could mitigate the damage output on Gahaku's end. Then that Eternatus just not able to do damage quickly enough. All the switches from Gahaku prevented him from doing more damage onto the other team, and then he managed to lose on timer due to that.
Yeah, mad respect for Chris though. That was a really hard fought and well earned game, and it just resets everything. Cause right now it's do or die. Like the player who wins will win the set, and both players have so much useful information coming out from each other, and also information on how each other plays. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this last game will play out with so many mind games and a lot of the line, honestly, because Copers really need this win against Thunders. Thunders are just sitting a little bit more comfortable. I really think that like Gahaku's position is always the more oppressive one, right? To put on pressure, but we see a huge change of leads on both sides. Yveltal is the constant here, so Yveltal and Landorus leads, pressuring that Intimidate and that Airstream, but Chris now tries to turn things around and goes for the offensive instead, and goes for Charizard and Groudon, the most offensive lead coming out from Rinyasan team.
Yeah, this lead could go really well or really badly either way for
True.
them. Just because they didn't want to play the timer game anymore, so they just went offensive, both of them on turn one. And depending on who does well here, could swing the game really heavily in someone's favor. So
Yeah, this.
the instant switch on both sides, especially on Chris's side, if Landorus maxes, doesn't have that white herb here, so if instant switches in, could mitigate the damage enough and then max on your own later on.
True, and it's interesting that Gahaku doesn't lead with that the Eternatus to keep things going, right, and like set up cosmic powers early, but chooses to switch the Landorus into the Eternatus, possibly wanting to take a powerful max move coming up from Charizard, but Chris really seems to be in the upper hand here because Charizard is naturally faster than Yveltal and really can start putting on offensive pressure against Gahaku's team. So we might see just Dynamax apiece from both sides. One thing we know for sure is Chris is going to switch that, going to Dynamax that Charizard, Gigantamax, sorry. And another thing to note also would be that he switched the Zacian in, and Zacian is the kind of the switch up on game 3 for Chris here, so really wanting to go on that offense and just put those cosmic power and stall tactics to a stop.
Right. And Chris feels like he has to go for one or the other between Airstream or Wildfire here. If he goes for the wrong one, he might not get a chance to attack next turn, so...
Oh, that makes sense. So, yep, wisely goes for that Airstream. There's a very good chunk to Yveltal because it threatens the 2-hit KO and more importantly brings Zacian's speed up. So instead of, trick lagging tail, here is yet another way to easily get your speeds up, get speed control and allow your Pokemon to move first. The Eternatus kind of got a free switch here. But yeah, Charizard really does threaten a lot of damage because it threatens the KO onto both sides essentially, and the Zacian kind of has free reign to just press the damage button and keep the pressure on.
Right. Chris is definitely in a good position after that. It feels like even though if the Landorus stayed in and went for a Rock Slide, then Zacian gets a speed boost, can threaten it with a Behemoth Blade the next turn, and also threatens the same on the Yveltal, so just needed a little bit of chip on that. And now both Eternatus and Zacian have the speed boost, so it's interesting to see who's going to go first here.
Oh, that's a really good point, yeah, because Eternatus will threaten Charizard with the Dynamax Cannon easily, with the Yveltal strategically going for that Airstream boost. So yeah, Charizard is actually still forced to protect here. The Zacian goes for the Behemoth Blade, does make sense, takes the Yveltal down, and importantly, the Zacian moves earlier than the Eternatus. I think with Eternatus wanting to be a stall set, then all that speed investment probably went into bulk. So Eternatus now goes for the Dynamax Cannon, but does not go into the Charizard. Wait, no, the Eternatus went for recover, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Gahaku timed out here, unfortunately.
Uh,
But either way, that play was pretty safe on Chris's end. If he goes for a Dynamax Cannon onto the Charizard, then he max guards that, survives for the next turn, and then even if he Veltal max guards, you just do the same play next turn, I feel like. Or you just go for an Airstream into the turn it is.
True. So, Incineroar naturally is the switch in from Gahaku's end, threatens the fake out onto Zacian. Then the Eternatus will threaten that KO onto the Charizard slot because it will naturally move faster. Let's see like how Chris adjusts to this, right? Because I really think this Eternatus from Gahaku's end matches up really well against Chris's team and has many ways to just help Gahaku be in a more comfortable position. So even though he lost the Yveltal, mid Dynamax so early on, the Eternatus is still able to be on the field and just threaten damage. So Zacian kind of understands that it's in threat of that Incineroar, then Chris switches the Zacian out into his own Incineroar. But the Charizard actually moves first. Like +1 speed Charizard is faster than the +1 speed Eternatus, or it might be a speed tie.
Yeah, that's interesting. Another thing to note is that the Eternatus actually has no moves to hit the Zacian, so it's a really good bring on Chris's end this game.
That's true, but Eternatus does not want to go for the damage here, so goes for the Cosmic Power, as the Charizard takes the opportunity to set up yet another Airstream. And yeah, Charizard is just sitting quite healthy because 2 Airstream boosts, no drops in any of the offenses, like no drops in special attack, and can possibly, go for more damage onto Gahaku's side with the few turns of Sun remaining. Gahaku actually opts to go for that parting shot, but into the left side slot and catches the Incineroar on the switch in, now brings the Landorus in, but Chris with this Incineroar switch still has fake out pressure on this turn. I'm really not sure why if the Eternatus didn't want to take that KO onto the Charizard slot.
Right, I think he was maybe anticipating a Charizard to switch out, but now Charizard's in a really good spot. Eternatus has just taken a lot of damage now, and he really has to go for a cover. So if Chris manages to fake out and take out the Eternatus this turn, it could be really difficult for Gahaku going forward.
Let's see how this plays out as the Landorus starts off with that Protect. Incineroar actually goes for fake out into Landorus's Protect. Oh no, Charizard misses the Blast Burn into Eternatus, the Eternatus slot. Like, I think the Blast Burn,
that lets the Eternatus sit around for a little while longer.
Yeah, Eternatus, the Blast Burn does make sense, because if Eternatus were to switch out to be in threat, like to feel threatened, then it might do significant damage into like the Mystery Mon in the back, right? But yeah, the last Mon is actually Incineroar from what we can see here, and I'm really not sure if like maybe Chris had other attacks to use, like maybe the flying type move is Hurricane instead of Air Slash, and it would miss in Sun. So Flare Blitz seems to be the safer option, but that 90% accuracy was just so unfortunate for Chris, as the Eternatus gets to recover for free. Yeah, see the Blast One comes out, it does so much damage into the Incineroar, so just so unfortunate to not be able to take the Eternatus down, and Gahaku just, like with this little bit of luck, it's really put into a much better position now.
Yeah, definitely. Now that Incineroar parting shots out gets Chris into a better position, though, with a fake out pressure next turn, even though Gahaku will have the same.
That's just so unfortunate to see, like, Charizard was in such a good position here, but the tables really turned, and now this Eternatus will seem to be really tough to take out. Zacian actually comes in here, and if Incineroar were to come in again, we will kind of get to see that speed interactions between both Incineroar. I'm not sure how like this is gonna end, right? Like whether Chris can still try to find a way out against this Eternatus.
Yeah, this is definitely a very iffy game for both of them now that missed. I suppose maybe Chris's Charizard had a coverage move like Solar Beam or something that he wasn't confident of KOing, or maybe just Ancient Power wasn't quite enough, but now Eternatus is very, very healthy. Charizard didn't manage to get that important KO onto it, so now it's 3v3, and it's interesting to see who the fake outs will go into this turn.
True, yeah, because the Incineroar is the only Pokemon that threatens the fake out here, and at the same time, I think the Landorus is in the back, right? So, these two physical attackers really will struggle against Gahaku's team to do damage into the Eternatus, and Eternatus now goes for moves first and goes for the Toxic into the Groudon. Better late than never, right? I think it has enough defense boost off of the Cosmic Power, and with Intimidate in the back really helps in terms of the mind games here. So Chris actually goes for the Behemoth Blade, which makes sense into the Incineroar slot in case the Landorus were to come in and really catches the Incineroar. Because even if Incineroar, fakes out the Zacian slot, then the Groudon will get to move. So Chris is just using the offensive pressure, the offensive prowess from Zacian to make an impact here.
Yeah, definitely. Zacian also knowing that he's not under any threat of being KO'd by the Eternatus or take any damage whatsoever, so he can just go for the free damage to the instant slot. As long as he can take out the other mons around Eternatus, he should always be able to win from there.
Yeah, and now the Landorus comes in and puts down the Intimidate onto Zacian and Groudon. This is such a close end game because Gahaku is just left with 2 Pokemon. But then again, the Eternatus might just be like 5 Pokemon because it's just so bulky. So the Incineroar actually switches in. Makes sense because you really need that Zacian for the end game. And let's see if this Groudon can make an impact here. Wow, Eternatus, yeah, I mean it makes sense. Doesn't want to. They cannot attack the Zacian, and then the Groudon is possibly Assault Vest. So like he wants to just let the Toxic chip it down. Oh, that Earthquake was a crit into the Incineroar. But
Incin also running the Focus Sash here on Chris's end. Heat Crash does a really good amount of damage to the Landorus as well, so if you can take out that slot again, it should be a pretty good win for Chris here.
True, and well, it's just so cool to see both sides run Sash Incineroar. And it does help here because the Incineroar threatens the fake out onto the Landorus slot. But we already know that Gahaku's Landorus has Protect, so it's a bit tough for Chris to go for fake out plus yet another Heat Crash because the previous turn of Groudon's Heat Crash into the Landorus was a really good play. So opting to switch out into the Zacian here and preserve the fake out, calling Gahaku is gonna protect that Landorus. So let's see if this pays off for Chris. Sure enough, the Protect comes out here. Eternatus, it went for enough Cosmic Powers already, so now going for the Dynamax Cannon into this Groudon slot. Yeah, it shouldn't do that much damage, and Groudon will now get to move. It actually goes for that Heat Crash into the Landorus slot, so not fully calling that Protect here, but good news is that Zacian gets to come in and definitely put on those that pressure of Behemoth Blade into the Landorus slot.
Yeah, you can definitely take out that Landorus with Behemoth Blade here, so interesting to see if Chris deserves to preserve the Groudon for later or just goes ahead and Precipice Blades.
It's tricky though because the Pokemon behind Groudon is a 1 HP Incineroar, so Gahaku is playing really well to always target the right side slot, right? Knowing that the Groudon cannot protect because it possibly has that Assault Vest. So man, that play in the previous turn, like I think Groudon could have just went for Behemoth Blade to purely just call the the Landorus for going for Protect here. So Eternatus gets to move first. Chris is opting to let the Groudon go and save Incineroar for fake out pressure here. The Zacian will naturally take out this Landorus, but the question is, how do you take out this Eternatus?
Yeah, this should probably go to timer, barring any crits from Zacian here, but we'll just have to see how they play it out. Eternatus can just keep spamming Recover once it gets low enough. But it does have no damage to the Zacian, so Zacian's going to stay at full health for the rest of the game.
I think, Chris kind of needs the timer to help him here, right? Like, that might be his only way out, but the turns have been playing too fast, I feel, and I really don't see it coming, because even if, like, Incineroar were to go for Fake Out, right, then Zacian gets to attack, but overall, Eternatus will still be able to recover all the way to full, so wait a second, right. I think it will come down to timer of, that's so interesting, of Zacian versus Eternatus, and then we get to see whose HP is stronger, because due to the math, right, you need to count the remaining HP over the total amount of HP of your whole team across 4 mons that you brought. I have a feeling that Eternatus gets the upper hand.
Yeah, I think if Eternatus manages to recover to full or very close to full, it should be able to win. But we'll have to see what happens here. If there's any crits from Zacian, that could make a big deal as well.
Yeah, so Fake Out plus Behemoth Blade is completely expected. Wait a sec, it's not completely expected because the Zacian could have another coverage move that does not do resisted damage into the Eternatus. So that's kind of curious that Chris opted to go for Behemoth Blade, possibly not wanting to miss here. So naturally, the Eternatus should target into the Incineroar here. Gahaku is just checking the board position and see the crazy amount of boost that Eternatus has. But yeah, like we said, this is gonna be the Eternatus versus Zacian endgame. Next few turns, the Eternatus will have to go for recover. Yeah, we see the play rough here. Like, the play rough could have come earlier and maybe threaten a 3-hit KO onto the Eternatus, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, it feels like maybe he thought that Behemoth Blade plus Play Rough crit was the way to go, but now he'll just have to hope for some crits. Gahaku free to spam recover once he gets low, unless he does get hit with that crit.
Yeah, and I think with that pressure ability on the Eternatus, the Play Rough PP will then be running low. I think Play Rough is really the option to go because I think Behemoth Blade is out already. It went for so many in front of the Eternatus. So here comes another Play Rough. With that Cosmic Power boost, really not that comfortable for the Zacian, but we see the 3-minute timer come up. We have finally reached that moment. What's gonna happen here? Because with one recover, Eternatus with that life recover plus Black Sludge can just essentially bring itself back to full.
Yeah, I like going for Cosmic Powers here just because, considering the Eternus is now faster than the Zacian, if he recovered, took the damage, it might swing it into Chris's favor. So he's hoping to just be able to recover to full or close to full at the end of that last turn.
I'm not sure though. Like Cosmic Power will then put yourself in mercy of crits. But then again, both recover and Cosmic Power is still.
He's kind of risking the crit anyway, so maybe he's just going for defense. Go all out, get all the defense boosts he can.
True. So 2-minute timer on the clock here. Gahaku is thinking, I think now should be the time to click recover. Gahaku has a lot of experience on the online ladder and a lot of experience with timers, I believe. Having piloted this team for quite some time for Series 13, so I think what he's trying to do, right, is time it such that as the 45-minute goes down, you force the Zacian to do minimal damage, then you recover at the perfect time. Get yourself back to full, the Play Rough will chip some damage, right, but the Black Sludge will be the last thing to happen. So the Black Sludge will possibly recover whatever the Play Rough did, and in terms of the math, like Eternatus has way more health than the Zacian. You can see 247 HP here. So Gahaku is possibly playing to that end game, and Chris unfortunately just needs to go with the flow here and hope really for the crit here. Because if the Zacian, like, we just have to play the turns out, right? So if the Zacian were to crit the Eternatus, I think that would be a win for Chris.
Yeah, definitely.
Man, what a way to...
This turn goes back for the Behemoth Blade, actually. Still hoping for a crit.
I think I understand this, because you want to go for Behemoth Blade to ensure damage, because if the Play Rough were to miss, then you wouldn't have done any damage into the Eternatus and it would possibly be at full health. So over here, yeah, it really comes down to math. I can't
Yeah,
believe
it's
we're
gonna be
ending
very
this.
close.
I can't believe we're ending the stream this way, and then like the first match we're casting together is something like this, which is kind of crazy. I think the math plays out for Gahaku though, cause
Yeah, I think Eternatus wins, but we'll have to see here. It's gonna be very close. Incin versus Landorus Charizard is gonna be.
what's that? Oh my
Yeah, Gahaku
gosh,
wins
Gahaku
here.
wins!
Barely on timer.
No way! What kind of game is this?
What crazy ending. Even though Eternatus can't do any damage to Zacian at all, still manages to just time out that game. So Cosmic Power paying off for Gahaku here, even though it is much harder to use on cart.
That's what a funny thing to say because Chris won game 2 through the timer, right? Because
Yeah.
he couldn't do anything into the Eternatus. But now Gahaku won game 3 through timer because the Eternatus couldn't do anything to the Zacian instead. So wow, what a way to what a very interesting story to see play out in this game. But just so unfortunate for Chris there because like their tournament lives are on the line, like, and Gaku was such a strong and formidable opponent, and he played so well all throughout 3 games, bringing just different Pokemon, right, and showing the different facets of his kind of Rinja-san team, even being able to win that game 2 against Eternatus after working so hard, adjusting for game 3 and bringing that Zacian, but still it just didn't play out like how he wanted. And man, it's just so unfortunate that the Eternatus kind of came out on top there with more health.
Yeah, definitely. That game 3 was so close. Both players must be really tired after playing the 2 timer games in a row. Well done to both of them. That seals up the Thunder's win for this week, though, and now the Copers are sitting on 2 ties and 4 losses.
Yeah, so with that, that's the end of this match. Thanks so much, Phuket, for joining me and our first experience casting a very interesting game, right? And having good practice for casting and like getting used to series 13, like kind of putting all our knowledge of Dynamax and how Gen 8 games work all together.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like our experience with timer games in the past has also helped with that.
Oh my
Those
god!
last 2 games there.
Because we used to play like timer
Yeah,
games
a
together
multi-battle league.
with the multi-battle league, and we always won on timer. So yeah, nice. And let's pass it over to Easy, and we'll give a quick recap on what happened this week. Hopefully, all these matchups have been concluded, so at least we know who's possibly gonna win, and a very high chance of a picture of who's gonna make it through to the playoffs. So thanks, Booker. See you. We're gonna pass it on to
Yep.
Easy Scene.
Thank you.